Let's go ahead and talk about enemy weaknesses and how to find out what enemy is weak to what and what element you should use to better take advantage of their weaknesses. So you actually have a database to track the weaknesses and resistances, immunities, and even like the damage that an enemy does in a simple database when you open up your menu here. On PC, you just hold F1, but whatever button opens up the map or this screen here for you, you can go up here and you can see there is a button right at the top of the screen that says database. You're going to go into database here and you're going to go into profiles. Profiles. Now here you can track between villains and factions. If you're on PC, you can't click here because it's designed for console, apparently. So you have to use the arrow keys and then enter. It's really ridiculous. All right, so here for Harley Quinn, for example, if we go into Harley Quinn's first option here, if you look on the right side, you can see her damage is going to be concussive and electricity. She's resistant to toxic and fire. So using those elements against her, you're going to do really bad damage. But if you want to do good damage against her, bring a concussive weapon of your own. An element that does concussive weapon on your weapons will be great for her. And you can see here, you can track the different things here, like these bashers, they're weak to toxic. So in general, those are toxic. So that's great. So bring toxic and fire to the Harley Quinn fights, right? Mr. Freeze is obviously going to be fire. Fire beats him because he's immune to frost and toxic, and he's resistant to concussive. So he's really tough to fight if you do not have fire. So I recommend bringing fire for this guy because he's hard to fight without fire. And you can check this for all these other enemies here, but if you want to check the individual enemies, you go into factions over here. So factions, let's go into like the League of Shadows, for example, here. The Assassin, you're going to go in here, you're going to see they're pretty much all weak to fire, right? And in general, you can see this kind of follows across through like the whole League of Shadows. So the Assassins are weak to fire, the Man-Bat, weak to fire, the Rocketeer, weak to fire. So the League of Shadows is going to be weak to fire. So if you can remember those, it's quite simple. The Court of Owls is going to be weak to frost. So anything that you use frost related is going to be amazing here. And you should also know that they do toxic damage and they're immune to toxic. So don't use toxic attacks on them. Don't be toxic, guys. It's not cool. The mob focuses on, well, you basically have to use Volt against them. So the mob is something you're going to be using the electricity, and they're going to be doing the concussive damage towards you. So you can also prepare what suit you have in terms of going against these types of enemies so that you can best, like, beat their weaknesses. Because if they're using concussive and your suit is resistant against concussive attacks, you're going to be really good. You're not going to take a lot of damage. So it's going to be great. The regulators, as you can see over here, these kinds in particular, they're not the ones that you normally see. Now, these ones are weak to concussive, as you can tell. So if you see any of these guys, make sure you use concussive here. Now, you have the Mr. Freeze associated regulators, which are the usual ones that you've seen. And these ones are like the ice type guys. So these ones are all going to be weak to fire. They all wear blue, so it kind of gives it away. So if they're wearing blue, use fire against them because they're going to be weak to the fire. The freaks, however, are weak to toxic, right? So use toxic against all of the freaks and you'll see your damage numbers do really fantastic. Now, one thing you can actually note is that when you're doing damage to enemies, you should be actually able to see the color of your attack. So if you're using fire damage against an enemy, your numbers should be red. If they're not red, that means the enemy is not taking increased damage from that fire. So if you're seeing the color of your attacks in the damage numbers you do, that means you are actually effectively damaging them more than you would have if you're using another element. So yeah, I hope this helps you, and thank you so much for watching.